So this episode starts out about the first 30 days of coming out. And that was our plan, but we had also kind of considered doing an episode about why we came out and why we think it's okay to be gay and Christian. And somehow we kind of ended up going into that topic, and most of it's actually a discussion on why we think we could be gay and Christian. So it's a little bit of a mishmash, but I think it's a great episode, and we hope you enjoy.
Welcome back to the I Try to Be Straight podcast with Susie
and Nate.
We are here today to talk about 30 days post coming out.
Yep.
What did it feel like? What was the vibe? What were the people in town saying, Nate?
So yeah, we want to get more into the stories behind us coming out, because we kind of ended our story right when we came out. And I feel like some people probably want the juicy bits right after.
The juice.
Do you have good juicy bits?
Do I have the juice? Man, well, okay, so I came out to my sister. She was the first person I came out to, and she already been known. She was like, welcome to the party, and she was super supportive, and my whole Christian friend group was also very supportive, which was surprising for me because there were some friends who I told, and they were just like, okay, all right. And I was expecting there to be more questions, for them to be like, how did you know? Tell me the backstory. Like, where did you, like, how did this happen? And I didn't really receive any of that, which I was surprised by and also very grateful for, that they just loved and accepted me. And then, of course, there were the relationships where there was a little bit more of a dialogue around, and we just had to sort it out and get an understanding of where each party was coming from, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely.
So yeah, straight after that, I kind of started dating, and so that was interesting. I would tell my friends about some of the dates that I would go on, and I was excited, but also so mortified and kind of scared. And what am I doing? I don't know if I should be doing this. And still that grappling of like my faith and sexuality and all the things. So it was just tough. Yeah.
Did we talk about this before? What was your first date like? Were you still on the fence, or were you pretty sure that this is what you wanted at that point?
I wanted to explore it. I wanted to see what it was like, because so far I had all kind of been built up in my head almost. And so being out on a first date in public, my anxiety was through the roof.
Right. I was someone's going to see you that knew you?
Oh my gosh.
Did you think like a friend might see you or something?
Yeah. I was like, what if, X person sees me and then I have to introduce this person, and do I say they're my friend? I don't want to lie. Like, they're not my friend.
Right.
There were just so many questions. And so super scared, but it ended up being an okay date. Yeah. I mean, nothing to write home about, but it felt like, okay, I finally got the first at-bat out of the way, and we can keep exploring this. Yeah,
and so when was the first actual dating for a little bit person? Like, how far was that into your situation?
Well, I still have not been in a serious long-term relationship. Right. However, there have been a few people that I've was dating for like shorter periods of time, and the first person I remember, I sent my friends a picture of her, and they were all like, oh my gosh, she's so cute. And I actually didn't find her very attractive, but it was like the first person who I was like, okay, we're dating, I kind of like her, but I don't know if this is going to go anywhere. And I remember like talking myself into liking her.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh no.
Because I was like, my friends think she's cool. Like, maybe I'm not seeing something, you know what I mean? And
when there's like so much potential, your friends can see it, you can see the potential.
Yeah. And
but if you're not feeling it, you're not feeling it.
I just wasn't feeling it.
You can't force that.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I think I felt that way for most of my dating experience, but I feel like I always find a new level of myself every time I date someone, because I'm like, okay, I know what I like. I know what I don't like. Here are my values. I actually didn't realize that this is a very important thing for me. So I'm learning more about myself as I date. And so that's been interesting.
So it sounds like you kind of had a few, like you went on a lot of dates with a lot of different people on the first bit of coming out. Like once you really started dating, you got a lot of experience. I think for me, so I kind of did it backwards. Like I didn't want to tell anybody until I was sure, because I was like, I want to actually have the experience with the person, so I'm not doing this for nothing.
Oh, that's fun.
Like I was like, I want to enjoy the dating process before I have to tell anybody. And that way it's like, I've gotten to enjoy it before I've gone through all the drama, right? Because I was really unsure how my friends are going to react. I've got a mixture of friends. A lot of my friends were from the church, right? Same with you. So the first guy I started dating, the guy I had my first kiss with, we dated for like a month. And so I wasn't telling anybody. I told like no one for the first week. I wanted to process it by myself.
Yeah.
Like that was between me and God, honestly. Like I knew I wanted to do this, but I knew I wanted to give it air and space and just enjoy it without dealing with all the drama of people potentially, trying to pull me away from the path. You know how that goes. So I was just being low key. But the funny thing was, we were friends too. Like this guy and me, we really vibed. And so we were hanging out a lot right away. Like we had a lot of same interests. We would play Super Smash Bros together, which was fun. And we're like reading some of the same books. Like he was, ironically, like we go like read books at a coffee shop, but he was, one of the cool things about when I met him is he was reading my favorite book. His chocolate covered almonds are coming back to bite me in the throat. And I did more push-ups for the record. I sometimes get tired and I need to psych myself up. And also the pump. Carry on. Okay. So like we had a lot of fun. We were hanging out a lot the first week. So one night he was out and I was out and I was hanging out with my friends and he was hanging out with his. And he's like, what are you up to? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm just like at this spot. And he's like, okay, cool. And then I look out and he was at the place across the street and he was just like popping over.
No way.
And so he wanted to pop over, but not actually say anything. And then he texts me, he's like, hey, I'm like right next door. Can I pop in? I'm like, yeah, pop in. It's fine. It's fine. And so I'm here with all my friends that have no idea that I'm gay. Like some of them they have no idea I'm gay, but here is the guy I'm seeing coming into this bar. I was freaking out. Yeah. But also like in a fun way. It was like, when it's undercover, it feels more like, I don't know.
It's dangerous.
Yeah. Like we're like kids sneaking around outside, like climbing out of our parents' windows at night, going to be with our secret boyfriend.
That's so funny.
Boyfriends yet, but so he came and like, I said, you can come sit with us if you want and I'll just be my friend.
Yeah.
So he came and sat with my group of friends and I'm like, this is my friend. Da, da, da. And we hung out for a bit. Yep.
What was the vibe?
It was super uncomfy, but I was just like, I don't care because I really like this guy at this point.
Yeah.
I found out later, a couple of my friends were like, is this what I think it is? And they actually got a little hint that maybe, because he doesn't seem that gay either, but I think they could see that, they could read the energy.
Yeah.
Because I was Twitter-pated. I was feeling it.
You liked him.
I liked him. I know. It was such a good first month. I was really lucky with the guy I was with because he was really respectful of my process, didn't rush me or anything. And it was really, it was
That's
nice.
awesome.
I know.
I also had an interest pop over when I was hanging out with some friends. And she left afterwards and all my friends were like, that girl's in love with you. And I was like, no, she's not. You guys are so wrong.
And they thought you're straight at this point and you're like,
no, they knew that I was out, but they thought
because your
the other chick was straight. And so I was like, no, she's straight, and like X amount of other factors. And they were like, no, we see it in her face. And I was like, nah. But it's funny because friends always pick up on the tension. They always they feel it. They feel the energy.
They knew. So I think the next week is when I finally was like, okay, I'm going to tell my friends and my brother and sister. I want to tell them as well. And I saved like half my family for a while. I didn't feel like telling half my family for a bit because I just wanted this process to be. It's funny because you struggle with this for so long and you think about whether it's right or wrong. And I've had these conversations with a lot of people when I was doubting of like, is this okay? Is this not? And I've heard 100 times from all these different people why this is wrong, etc. And now that I'd finally decided to act on this and decided that I knew all this information, knew why people thought it was wrong, knew what I felt, and still felt like it was right for me. I didn't want to dig through all these conversations when it was fresh, like I was saying before. So I told half of my family and a couple siblings, and they were really receptive. They listened, and I think there's some questions from one of them, which is valid, and I talked through it, and one of them was kind of like, okay, I'll think about this. I'll process this. And the other one was kind of like, yeah, go for it.
Go be Nate.
Yeah. You know how it goes. They've deconstructed a little bit too.
Yeah.
So I think some of them were more ready than others, but that was a really cool part of the journey in that first month is having that interaction with them. And then with my friends, what was really surprising with my friends is a lot of deconstruction had gone on. I think
prior or post?
Yeah, in that same season, kind of similar season as me. I think the deconstruction that was going on with a lot of people in the church kind of helped me feel, because I was already like, I'm pretty sure I'm gay and I'm not gonna like girls. I knew. So the deconstruction going on with the community made me feel a little safer to be like, yeah, there might be more openness, and it also helped me feel more like okay with coming out. So I'm talking to a couple friends. I remember the first ones I told, and I was just expecting the worst. They'll do their best to still like you. Like, I like these people, I know these people, but it's scary. You're going to change the way they see you forever. They're not going to see you the same way. They're going to see you as either choosing sin, weak, or they're going to see you as someone they need to like fix. You're thinking all these things. You know what it's like to be in that journey, and I know exactly what it is like to think those things. So I could expect anything from them. Yeah. And I was really lucky to find that a lot of them were just like, I love you, and I think that's awesome.
Yeah, that's so
And
cool.
I was like, really? Like, you're not gonna tear me a new one? You're not gonna tell me I'm like making a huge mistake or fight with me for an hour? Because I was ready. I've had those conversations too. I was ready. I'm not afraid of it. And I think people, I don't need everybody to do it perfect, and I'm okay with the journey. It's not gonna change my path. Right. But it's gonna be painful. Yeah. To know that someone else feels like they have the need to fix me and change me. It's just, it's a draining process, and it just, for me to go through this experience, have this emotion, have this feeling, and for you to think that your responsibility is to make sure I know very clearly that I'm in the wrong, and that even though this feels like my own journey, you being a straight person feel really confidently that I am totally out of whack and I'm crazy. Like, when I have had those experiences, well, that is really just not fun. No. And so that's what I was expecting from a lot of people. Yeah. And I did get from some people. I had a couple people say, I don't know how to process this, and just basically like, I don't know what to say, and just like end the conversation. That's it. Yeah. And that's okay. I wasn't mad about it, but it's like, if I got all of that, it would have been really hard. And I think it was a good mixture of some people just being like, I love you, and that's awesome. And it comes to a point of, I know what most of the Christian world thinks about this, and I'm not mad at that, but I am choosing this. This is my life. And so when you do get that feedback where people really feel like they need to really tell you that you're wrong, that you're ruining your life, it's like, I know you feel that way, but on some level, this is my life and my journey with God. And I would like other people to let me have my journey, you know?
Respect it and
to trust it. Yeah. I think if everyone was really rough on me, I think I probably would have isolated a lot more. Yeah. So being able to like walk right into those 30 days after coming out, 30 years, 60, and feeling like I had community still, I feel really lucky, because it's not always the case. It's not. So you mentioned you and your friend group were kind of deconstructing at the same time. So I guess I'm curious, what did you guys reconstruct in the midst of that? Was it some reconstructing of faith, friend groups, beliefs? What does that look like now? More openness to the things we don't know. I think Christian religion tries so hard to get an answer to every single thing and have the 100% stance. And that's why we've got like 100,000 different denominations of everybody taking this one different part of the Bible and making a whole different denomination. Right. I think it's interesting that independently from me and my journey of coming out, I think I deconstructed even slower than some of them because I was so focused on this struggle. But just realizing that the American church doesn't have all the answers, and love is the most important thing. It's about, loving each other. If it looks a lot like it, if it doesn't look anything like love, it's probably not of God. And so I think that doesn't just fuel into being gay or not. Like, there's a lot of other things in the Christian faith that are very centered in a bit of control, a bit of fear, a bit of trying to do the right thing at the expense of like not listening, not being open. I think a lot of the people I'm around that have deconstructed just have way more openness to things they don't understand and aren't trying to fix everybody or be so in charge of everybody else's lives.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that for me in doing this podcast it's been so hard to read the comments of there's no hate like Christian love. And when you read something like that as a Christian and you know what the church is meant to be and do, it just gets under my skin, because if the church, me including Christian, am acting in a way that is like Jesus, there should be comments saying, man, the Christian community has really rallied around you and loved you so well, and in fact you are closer to God now than when you started your journey. And that is just not the case for so many people.
I mean, if you ask they did a poll on this, if you ask the half the population that isn't Christian in this country if they think Christians are making the country better or worse, they were 90% saying Christians made the country worse. And okay, I'm sure there's a lot of Christians doing charity work, but there are billions of dollars going through the Christian church system, and how much is being spent on buildings and campuses and private jets for some of these celebrity preachers and celebrity leaders. And I've seen it firsthand. There's so much money goes to the church. There are a lot of great people in the church, but there are a lot of people that have been using that money for not great things. If so much more of that money just went to helping the widows and the orphans, the unhoused, wouldn't the church be seen as a loving place and not a place that is more focused on fixing people than loving them?
Well, I mean, that's a whole nother can of worms, isn't it?
I know. Don't get me started, right?
I think for me personally, what I can speak to in that is, I remember when I came out and I was really I just wanted faith community. I wanted to be in a Bible study. I wanted to be in a small group. So I found this organization. It's a gay Christian organization, and they do virtual Bible studies. And so I signed up for one. I hop on that Zoom call and I'm I have my Bible. I'm like, okay, I'm ready to get into the word. What are we going to talk about? And it really was more of a safe space for the people who identify as Christian and are also in the LGBTQ community. And it just ended up being a group of women who were so hurt by the church, and they were all talking about their experiences getting kicked out, their parents disowning them, and my heart, I'll never forget this, I just broke, and I just could feel it in them. They were so hurt by the church, and it just broke my heart. I mean, there's just no other way to put it. I just don't want people to feel that way, especially in a community that's meant to be loving, and people who stand on the cornerstone that Jesus is our Savior, and He loved us so that He came down to save us, and we're leaving a trail of really hurt people behind. And so my hope for this podcast is that people would find other Christians and believers, or even, I mean, we had Morgan on, she's on a different path spiritually, but people who have been through the same similar story and are wanting to connect with other similar people, if that makes sense. That was a lot of rambling, but
No, I know what you're saying. I feel like there's so few people that are in this path that we're on that feel like the church has handled it well. And we know that there's different beliefs going on, and I don't expect them to just be like, yeah, go do your gay thing and you're great. I know it's not going to be like that, but the level of awfulness that it's been handled with for so many people in so many stories, them just not wanting to confront you, them confronting you, them exposing you to too many people, them telling a lot of people behind your back about it, them just silently shutting you out from everything, them sending you to licensed therapists. Christians,
that part is crazy.
It happens so much.
It's happened so much.
It's painful to watch and to even want to call yourself a Christian, because Christians, if you're not aware of how the LGBTQ population gets treated in the church world and how afraid we are of it, then it's something you need to know.
Yeah.
It's really important that there's ownership over this, because I don't think you have to be perfect on this, but I think it could be done so much better if you don't agree with us. I think like the more time after coming out, like looking how my 30 days were, I was pretty lucky to have really strong community and to have a pretty good grid for my spirituality. But you look at so many people and their experiences with the church, and it's so hard to reconcile what you're experiencing with the church around the sexuality when you finally accept your sexuality and realize for so long you've been in turmoil for all this time because of everything you've gone through from the church, like coming out of that and still being open. So yeah, I was really lucky. My friends were open to me being a Christian and gay. My friends were Christian still, but had opened up their faith a little bit. But for so many people, it's not like that.
Yeah.
And that's something that I feel like the church has missed the mark on so heavily, that even just coming out here, I don't like, if you're coming out, I totally understand why you give up your faith. I thought about it too. Yeah. My faith has not been flawless after I've been wrestling with a lot of these things, and I'm still wrestling with some of it. I don't have it. I don't know the answer to everything, but yeah. I think it's such a tricky thing to have all that happen to you, and it's almost like faith and religion were kind of your abuser in a lot of ways, to still want to be connected to that in some way. Like honestly, it sounds like that syndrome where you like date your abuser or your kidnapper.
Yeah, what's that called?
I can't remember. It's the syndrome. Syndrome.
Stockholm syndrome.
Stockholm syndrome. Yes, it's a delightful city, but bad syndrome. It almost feels like that, and I'm like, people probably look at me like I have Stockholm syndrome. Like I'm like, gosh, I need my face so bad, yeah. Even though it abused me. I'm like, let's keep hanging out. Yeah. That was great. Actually, I love that abuse. It was awesome, and I'm like, valid. I mean, I think for me, and this is another tangent that we don't have time for, but I didn't want my pain to be the decider of what I believe.
Yes, yeah.
Just like I also decided that I didn't want religion that didn't feel like my actual walk with God to be the decider of what my sexuality looked like. I wanted my actual walk with God and my like beliefs to be there, and my gut and my heart, all of that. I don't want to be believing or doing anything reactionary. I want to be doing and believing things that fit what my heart believes, what my gut and my mind believe. And so I know this is like a huge topic. We're like touching the surface of, but yeah. We're going to do more. I think there's so much room for spirituality talks, and I think we're just digging into the bare minimum of it. But I think, again, we were lucky to have had friends around us that even through all of that pain we went through, we still feel like we had support and love. And I think that actually probably helped us keep our faith, because I think I was able to have faith and still feel like I could have community and be gay and somehow operate in that. Because I feel like in a lot of places, you either go find a community that's not Christian at all, or you go and like suppress your sexuality if you want to, or you just like live alone as a gay person. And I think we're lucky individuals, I would say. I
would agree. Yeah. It's been interesting what you said about our community rallying around us led us to still keeping our faith, because I would totally agree. I mean, I had mentors and people who I would consider like older sisters in the faith, and I told them, and they were super loving, and they actually inspired me to be closer to God because of how well they loved me. I realized like, oh, okay, my faith, my love for people can be a lot bigger than the container I've put it in to be safe. And so I think we both have encountered a similar, what would you say, expert on the matter in Sacramento, who has very strong opinions about this. And I believe he would say the opposite of what we're saying, and probably hates us. I don't know.
I know. The crazy thing about being gay and Christian, it's like you can't just like chill after. Like you have to constantly be like sorting through this and have people around you telling you you're crazy. Like, I want to be a gay Christian, and the Christians are telling me like, you can't. Yeah. Like they're literally saying that you can't be gay and a Christian. Like there's literally so many posts. I watch this on TikTok. Like, if you're saying you're gay and a Christian, you can't do this because this isn't this. And I'm like, why are you trying to like gatekeep Christianity? You're trying to gatekeep Jesus. You don't think Jesus, if Christianity is just being connected to Christ, you don't think I can be connected to Christ even if I was in sin, even if this was sin. If I'm confused and I am stupid enough to think this isn't sin, even though it is, like, and Jesus still wants to hang out with me, you're going to say I shouldn't hang out with Jesus because, like...
It's funny because it's like, if you think being gay and Christian is so just out of this realm, let me tell you about the virgin birth. Like, that's gonna blow your mind. Like, I can be gay and Christian, and I've had those talks with people, specifically this one guy, and he was like, you pick one. Like, you gotta pick one. And I literally was just sitting there, and I was like, says who? Like, I'm sorry, who are you? And you look kind of miserable yourself, my guy. So I don't know, it's just interesting.
I feel like we've kind of dug into a different topic, but I'm not mad about it. I think like the faith topic is something that is crucial to this whole podcast. I think it's gonna probably evolve as we go, and I think there's a lot of conversations. I think we both want this podcast to be for anyone. Not just that. I think a lot of us, I mean, like me and you have wrestled with our faith. Some other people we talked about or bringing on have also wrestled with their faith. And so it's going to be a central element of that. And so it's going to keep slipping in. But I want this podcast to just be us going with what feels, important and right. And I think this kind of has gone that direction, even though it's a little different. I feel like we both talked about like the first 30 days of dating and also like why it's okay to be gay and Christian. And that's... like, I think those topics somehow work together.
We're just integrated, I think is what it is. And my faith...
We're geniuses.
We're geniuses.
We're freaking geniuses. No. We're integrators.
I think I have learned a lot in the past year, and I've learned that I'm not going to parse out parts of myself to fit a container and to make people happy. And so this is part of my life. My faith is part of my life. What I believe and my values really drive who I am. So... for me, it comes up often, just as therapy and all the other fun stuff about me comes up, and for you as well. So I think it'll just flow.
I guess, what would you say to other people as far as like their walk with God and the fears you've had and what you've done and what you've learned on the other side of those fears, as far as like, is it okay to be gay and Christian?
I still struggle sometimes with that question. And I think I struggle because I often can talk myself into things. I can go around the loop, the infinity loop of like, well, this is my rebuttal to this. This is my rebuttal to that. So I can have a full-on conversation with myself and know exactly what the other person, if they were conservative and Christian, would say, because I was that person. So it's like, it's very confusing. And to be completely honest with you, a week before the podcast release, just could not sleep. Like every night I was so anxious.
Dang.
And one night I eventually ended up going over to my sister's and I was just sobbing, and I was like, I don't know if this is the right thing to do. I don't know if this is God's will. Am I leading people astray from God? And so I'm still sorting it out. I'm still learning how to hear from God. I believe I hear his voice, and whenever I prayed about this, I just felt so much peace. And I know that whatever happens with this is going to happen for his good. He can use all things for good. And so I do believe that. And I still struggle with it. And I feel so open to being wrong in both my rebuttals, in both my conservative Christianity and my liberal bi Susie ways. Like, I'm so open to being wrong because I have been wrong so many times in my life. And so I think that I am on this journey, and I'm having a lot of grace on myself. And so I don't expect other people to have grace on me, but I do. And so this is part of my journey. Like I said, I'm not going to cut pieces of myself out to fit into something that is not true. And I'm kind of on just standing on business on that of like, I'm not going to be the right thing. I'm going to be the true thing. And the true thing is I love God. I love Jesus. I love people. I love my gay friends. And this is where we're at. I love myself, honestly, which is hard to say.
Yeah. But
I love myself. I love the way God created me. And yeah.
No, I think that's incredibly honest. And I love that. I think I've had those, like, what if we were wrong? I think people have challenged that. That's something you get I mean, you've seen the comments probably on my post, like, what if you're wrong? You're leading people down this, like, there's this one guy that just says, like, he says something like the deceiver on my posts over and over again, or like deceit, or some sort of like doom and gloom, like you're like, just like you're destroying other people. And I've gotten that, like, what if you're wrong? You know, I'm not trying to act like I have all the answers. I've said this so many times, but all I really want from this whole thing, from my TikToks, from being here with you doing this, is to be really honest and vulnerable and say what gay Christians are going through growing up in the church, or whatever you want to say, same-sex attractive, SSA, as a lot of people I know would say. This is insane. The walks we have gone through, the amount of prejudice we've experienced, even when I was trying to be straight, I did not feel accepted. I did not feel loved. I felt fear. I felt just like put through the freaking ringer over and over again. And whatever you believe, the way we're experiencing life, if you're gay, is just not okay. I can't keep watching people like me go through what I went through, what you went through. So I don't think you have to have all the answers to say you want to see things change. And if being Christian and gay is crazy, I think God still loves us. If we were wrong.
There have been crazier things.
But I definitely, like, after hearing it for 30 years and having ingrained in your head for this long, all these fears poured into you by all these leaders and such high stakes. If you ruin this, you're going to hell. If you mess up in this, you are destroying other people. You're going to hell. You're going to lead another person down this path with you. I gotta believe God's bigger than that. And I also believe that that's all rooted in fear. And if me just acting on who I love is going to send me to hell, then I just don't think God's the God that we described in Christianity. If God would send 500 million of us to hell just for acting on who we love, and I'm not talking sex, I'm talking love, who we feel romance and connection for and desire and love and comfort and passion for. If us just acting on that sends 500 million of us to hell, then the God you're describing and the God I've been taught about for 30 years of my life is not the God that you're talking about. And so at the very least, if you don't believe what we believe, that's okay. I'm not trying, we're kind of kids in this in a lot of ways. We're not I've said this before, I'm the youngest child in my family. I'm not this big, strong leader. I really believe what I believe, and I do have confidence in a lot of things I can do, but I don't want to be a pastor that pretends they have all the answers, because those guys are all full of shit. I'm not going to be that. I'm going to be something different. I'm going to be a guy being brutally honest and saying my experience and what I believe. And if you don't believe me, that's okay. But just know there's millions of voices like mine that have gone through hell in the church, that are not being represented. They're not being heard. And I don't believe God wants me to suffer alone my whole life. That's not the God that I've been taught about. That's not the God you say you believe in. And that's not the God I feel with me. The God I feel with me, and this is my journey, and I know some of you won't believe this, but the God I feel with me feels like he's connected to me. And I feel like I'm the most authentic version of myself, and my walk with God feels more authentic than it ever has. Even though there's less religion attached to it, even though I'm not going to church all the time, I feel that connection. And I want you to be honest when you're feeling afraid and you don't have all the answers. And I would never expect anything less. I know we're so new on this journey, and how anyone who acts like they have everything figured out about an eternal, omnipresent God in a world that is very physical, we all have different interpretations of the Bible because of this. There are mysteries to all of this. Me deconstructing everything and still believing, us still wanting to believe in God even after we've been through all this, is a mystery. We don't have all the answers.
Nope.
But being afraid that we're wrong because of all these people that also very much don't have all the answers feels just as dumb.
Yeah. Something my brother-in-law said that gave me a lot of peace was, God is sovereign. I'm not. And so I was like, okay, if I'm wrong, God is still sovereign. Like, he still will use this. Like, I can be wrong and it's okay. Like,
Yeah.
and so I don't have all the answers. I probably have more questions than answers, as you know me.
Yeah.
So
No, and I think they're good questions.
Yeah.
I think that's the same thing that makes the questions that keep us from acting like we know it all right now
I don't.
are the same questions and the same headspace where we questioned why God would make us gay and ask us to just forgo all of our passions and loves. But when we found out who we are and we learn to trust ourselves and walk in that, it puts us in this place of tension where we don't have all the answers, but I sure as hell don't believe the church has this all figured out.
Yeah.
The mishandling's been ridiculous. It's comical how bad the church has handled
It's been tough.
the LGBTQ issue.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with walking in tension, and I really do believe that me and God are okay, and that God created me who I am.
Yeah.
And I've never felt as accepted and loved by God as when I feel like I can be fully myself and be connected to God.
Yeah.
Whereas before I felt like I wasn't bringing all of me to God. I was bringing most of me to God and being like, oh, this part of me, no one's going to see that. God, you hate that part. I'm going to keep that away. The sensitive, the soft, the loving, the little girly boy.
Girly boy.
The little squishy, soft, emotional, sensitive Nate that also happened to fall in love with guys. That, God can't see that. God can see that, but he doesn't like it. So God, here's the 75% of me that you like, me faking masculine. When I brought that side in and brought that to God, that's when I realized I could have a full connection with God, not a connection with God where I'm hiding half of myself.
Dang. Okay, so what you just said triggered a memory for me. I was connected to my inner child, and
Love inner Susie.
yeah, little
I love
Susie,
her.
little lesbian short Susie. And this verse came to mind when I was doing that, and it was, "Let the little children come to me." And I was literally thinking, how much and how often do we keep our inner child, the parts of us that are so ashamed, away from God? And I remember doing this work with my inner child, hearing that verse, and I just realized, like, why am I keeping little Susie away from God? And like, he knows, he's seen it. And so I love that you have allowed little girly Nathan to love and be seen by God. That's cool.
There was no way to feel like you had a real connection with God when you're hiding a piece of yourself.
Yeah.
As much as I tried to separate my gayness away from me, I never could. I always felt fake. It's like you put a filter on yourself before you talk to God, before you talk to friends. Life was a filter. It's just another piece of why I couldn't believe that God would want me to just try and be celibate, or just try and, like, some of the most beautiful parts of myself I bury when I bury the gay part of myself.
Yeah.
It's not the full me. There's no way to give you the full Nate. And friends and people I know would attest to this. There's a difference in who I was before and after, where you are getting the full Nate now. And that full Nate has been hiding for 25, 30 years. Would God want that? Could you believe that God would want me to be a piece of myself? I can't. Yeah. That's why I can be confident. I can stand up here and be like, yeah, I don't have all the answers. But what the church is telling me to do is to sever a piece of myself off and throw it in the fire and die.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that what's interesting is, I think the church would say, this is your cross to carry.
Love that for me.
Well, what would be your response to that?
They compare it to their own crosses. Oh, I like to look at this. I have the, like, propensity for cheating. So it's just like me not doing that. It's not you not doing this. That doesn't affect your personality. You're not hiding a part of your personality. You're not modifying your behaviors. So I'd say that's extremely different. If you don't do any of those sins you're talking about, your life will be healthier and happier. If I don't do any of those sins you're talking about, like falling in love with a man, I'll be alone and celibate and much less happy. Any other sin has harm in it. Any other sin we talk about in the Bible has a harmful effect. Lying, cheating, stealing. It's going to hurt people. Being gay, I would say, and this could be argued, but I would say me and that other person's life is enriched. Maybe we're even like fostering kids, and maybe we're even like taking some people out of the really difficult foster system and adopting. There is good that comes from that. So if you compare it to your cross to bear, I'll say your cross I could carry. That cross, easy. You want me to carry the cross of being alone my whole life, never having a kiss, never having a partner that's
companionship or any of that,
gonna live with you forever. Companionship, the one person that you lock into your life that's stuck with you forever. You know, I always wanted someone that would commit to, I don't want my friends to like never leave. Like I'd have friends and I'd like have guy friends and I just want to be connected to them forever and be like, well, how do I know you're not gonna move away someday? I'm like, I want to be connected to you forever. The only way, and that was when I was kind of like in the middle of like, that's basically being celibate. The only way to get someone that's really committed to a long-term, long-standing partnership is marriage. That is what I want the most. I want a person that's stuck with me. I want a person that can't leave me. No, just kidding. No, but there's a beautiful partnership, a beautiful thing to partnerships that the marriage. So your cross to bear, again, long answer, short question. Your cross to bear is just having to keep yourself from lying. My cross to bear is being alone for my whole entire life. When I'm capable of falling in love with somebody. So that's what I'm feeling about that. But I will say, you said something like you're worried to like lead other people astray. Like, what was your answer to that? Do you feel like you're still like figuring that out? Because that's a big thing.
Yeah, I mean,
like 6 episodes on the podcast. Because I've had that fear before.
I mean, I think I'm still afraid of it. Like right now, I'm resting on the fact that I'm not telling people what to do with their lives. I'm just sharing my experience. And I believe that God can call people to be celibate. I believe that God can call people to marriage. I personally don't feel like I'm called to celibacy, and I can rest on that and stand by that. And so I'm just resting on the fact that God is God. I'm not God. I'm a mere human, Susie, still learning about myself, still processing my own story. And so I'm not going to give you advice on what to do with your life. That's kind of on you. I'm happy to ask questions and have a conversation and dialogue around what's happening. However, I'm resting on the fact that God is sovereign. That's literally where I'm at right now. And that's just it.
No, I love that you're so open and vulnerable with that, because it is scary, because
it's terrifying.
I think we're coming from cultures where other people dictated how you did things, and you're responsible for other people's actions in the church when you're their leader. Yeah. But sharing stories is not telling people what to do. I believe what I believe. You believe what you believe. We're mostly aligned. We're still figuring stuff out. Our journey is still in process. We're doing this podcast on an ongoing journey. Yeah. We're still figuring this out with our walks with God. We do believe we can be Christian and gay. It's scary to think. It's one thing to put this on the line and be like, okay, this is what I feel with God. This is what I believe. And then feel okay with doing that. But then believing other people are following you. You're like, oh shoot, I really need to have this dialed. I feel like I do. I feel like I'm not telling people what to do. I'm sharing my experience. I'm telling them what I believe. And I encourage people to follow their own journeys, follow their own beliefs, follow their own path. And I'm not going to try and control or tell people what to do. Yeah. And I feel like we've experienced a lot of control and being told what to do, especially in the churches. There's so much more to this than anyone is talking about. There is, if you're going through this and you're fighting and you're struggling, you're in the middle of it, like I've been for so much of my life. We just want you to know that you're not alone, and that it's normal to be feeling all these things, and it's normal to feel like the church has no idea what to do and they don't know how to help you, because that's just the experience so many people have had. For me, that means I don't think God is against being gay. everything I've believed, everything I've gone through, my personal experience is very much, I don't think God is against me being gay. But this is your life, and I'm not a pastor. I'm just a guy who's gone through a lot of shit because of them. And I just want you to be exactly who you are. I think you should be gay, but I love dialogue, and I want whoever's listening to follow their path, not mine. So I'm not really like, I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah.
And I think you got to keep following your journey. I think we're going to be growing and thinking about this and dialoguing about this as time goes on.
Yeah. And in the same way that I would like someone to respect my path, like I'm going to respect other people's paths, right? Yeah. So, I mean, I have friends who have chosen to be celibate, and they're so connected to God, and I love that for them. And there's mutual respect where I've chosen to go a different route. And so just so much hurt and shame can be eliminated when there's mutual respect. And I trust that they're hearing from God. They trust that I'm hearing from God. And so in that same way, listener, I trust that you can hear from God, and that he's going to speak to you. And yeah.
Listen to your walk with God. Let your whole, listen to your gut. Don't just take someone else's word for it. You need to walk your path. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why we're here when we're raw. we're not experts, and that's hopefully helpful. And we want to show you the parts that are still in process. But
cheers to that.
No, I really love where you're at and the honesty. I think that's one thing about you that I love, is you're okay to be real. To be real. I think you gotta be, after all of this. What's the point in being fake? I can't even. No. Too much work, and no, thank you. And okay, I don't know if you feel this too, but I'm just so done hiding and like being secretive about things, and like I don't introduce this part of my life to this part of my life because it's water and oil. Like, when your life has been hide and seek, you get tired of it. I want to live in the light. That sounds so cheesy. That sounds like a bad Christian song. Put that on a mug. Live in the light. I'm gonna live in the light. He's Nate and he lives in the light. Okay, we've been doing this too long. No, I just want to be real and imperfect. And I think you're going to get a lot of that in these episodes, because we're just babies. We're just a baby. But I don't know, I'm excited. I'm excited for people to break out of their boxes and shells, and I'm excited for this issue to hopefully bust out. And if the very least, if people don't agree with us, people are talking about this. I don't want the church to be able to hide behind this issue and not actually address it. People need to feel safe in churches. People need, if you don't want to agree with us, at least give the gay people some love. Give the celibate some love. Yeah, and make some people feel safe. I know the haters aren't listening to this podcast, but if you know a hater, send them this clip right here. Commenting on somebody's TikTok that they're going to hell, or that they are, what did they call you, deceiver, that does nothing but draw people further away from the church. You are not drawing anybody closer to God doing that. You're not inviting anybody into Christianity. You're pushing people away. And so save the time, save your energy, go do something more productive. It's not doing anything for the cause, my guy. Unless you want to, and you can come at me. We're not afraid of it. But there are better uses of time. But also come at me, because let's go. No, I will say. Don't come out. Don't come at me. I'm soft. Don't come at Susie. Come at Nate. I'm soft and squishy. You can put your attacks at me, because I am. I've gotten so much shit. I'm just like, what's one more comment? What's more? It is what it is. We invite the guy calling you deceiver onto the podcast. Let's go. Let's talk to him. We box. Me asks him, so what was your family like growing up? So why do you hate? Tell me about your homophobia. What happened to you as a child? Why do you cause me so much pain? It's all kind of funny to look at where we are now and think about the journey, and it's crazy. This is my life, and then I'm talking about this, and I was just trying to vibe. I was just trying to be a guy. I wasn't trying to be like involved in What's issues. That line? I'm just a guy. I'm just a guy. Trying to love a girl. Trying to love a girl. Or no, I'm just a girl trying to love a... from that movie? I'm not just a girl. I'm a boy. No, okay. I'm gay, but I'm still a boy. It's a common misconception. I'm still a man.
He's a man.
He's a man.
He's a man.
But we've gone through all the useful places, and this has been so serious. But that is what happened to us the 30 days after coming out.
Plus
a little spin-off episode, why we're Christian and gay, and what that means to us, and why you can be too, but not if you don't want to, only if you want to. Don't feel pressured to, and be happy and be you, and that's okay, and we're all happy, and that's the title of the podcast.
Yeah. Well, we didn't even get to this because this is a completely separate thing, and we're 11 minutes over time.
She said the timer, not me. I said we'd be free with it, but she's like, timer.
We really didn't talk about spiritual abuse or what that looks like and boundaries, but we will get into that
Were
another
we supposed
episode.
to?
No, I'm just saying it's just part of. I feel like it's part of it.
I feel like it's relevant.
Right?
I love talking about abuse. It's the best.
All right. Well, that's how we bonded.
Yeah, I know. There's so much to get into, and this is more than we intended, but hopefully it was useful. Listeners, I hope that this has been interesting, and I feel like we talked in circles, but hopefully they were fun circles. Hopefully it was like a carousel. A circle. But you enjoy it.
Well, we are signing out.
Please, we need to sign out.
Yeah, Nate is starting to slur his words, and our cameraman is ready to rip his hair out.
Yeah, we really just need this to end.
All right, well, this is
no more
Nate
sidetracks.
and Susie
and
signing
I don't think we should
off.
talk about anything else, and we should end this conversation.
This is probably really annoying to the listener because we're talking over each other.
Nate and Susie signing out.